another episode of For the Love of Marketing. I'm Namrita, that is Simon. Hi, Simon. How
Hi,
are
Nam.
you?
How are you? I'm good. I'm really good, thanks. Yeah. Just recovering from the heat wave we've had over here for the last couple of days. Thankfully, it's cooled down a bit now. How are you doing?
I'm great. I'm doing well. The weather is pretty good here. It's raining, so that's a good thing in India, apparently.
Nice,
On the
nice.
contrary.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think we were hotter than you a couple of days ago, but then it rained here as well, so it's cooled down a lot. Thank God. It was not nice.
Yeah, I can relate to that. So yeah, today I wanted to talk about content marketing. As you know, everybody's creating content. The recipe for success is like creating content these days, and a lot is happening in that market, and it's very, very difficult to stand out because how generic the content is getting and all a lot of factors. What are the benefits of having an effective content marketing strategy? Like how to build an effective content marketing strategy that helps you stand out and all those good things.
Yeah, I mean, look, content marketing is so important now. It has been for many years now, to be honest with you, and it really does touch every part of marketing. I mean, there are the obvious areas like social media, which is, I think, where a lot of people naturally lean to when they think about content marketing. In fact, I had a conversation with somebody just yesterday who had assumed that because they were having a conversation with somebody else about social media, that included your whole wealth of other content marketing, because they just so closely associated the two things together. So it's really critical now. It plays a role, of course, in social media, which is a really important channel, pretty much no matter what business you're in, B2C and B2B in so many different markets in so many countries in the world. There are multiple billions of users, of course, and there's normally an audience there for you. Also on your website, of course, for driving users around and creating the right engagement, the right journeys. Obviously for SEO as well, within your email marketing, it's such an important piece, and getting it right is definitely one of those areas that's a bit of an art form and a bit of a science, right? So understanding how to do storytelling really effectively is the art form. Some people are good at that, some people are not so good at that, but it's a critical area of marketing to appreciate how to take people on a journey with you throughout a story, whether that's a video or audio or written. And remember, content can be all formats. That's important to understand. I think it's a really critically important area. So the benefits are in every area, really. They're in your engagement on your social media, your performance on SEO, your conversion factor on your sales funnels, your retention, your loyalty throughout your customer journey. So it's a critical area, and for me, any business that today doesn't have a clear content strategy with good planning and good thought about what they're going to produce, how they're going to produce it, how they're going to distribute it, how they're going to monitor effectiveness, should be looking at that straight away. And certainly we look at it with a lot of our clients on a regular basis. So yeah, it's an absolutely essential area to today's marketing mix.
Yeah. And I think all companies are trying to create content on their on different levels, and there's so much content right now on all channels. So sometimes it can be easier to copy something and be inspired by something over creating something original, because in the sea of content it will probably get lost, or people will really not take out the time to read an original piece of work or something like that. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. I mean, I think originality is a hard thing, right? I mean, all ideas have been done, and there are no new ideas and all those sort of quotes, right? I think I don't think that's entirely true, by the way, but certainly every story, every idea you have is likely to have been touched on at some point in history, but finding your own twist on it is where it's interesting. I think one thing that does bother me as a marketer is seeing people literally take somebody else's content, change the background color of it to their brand, and then pump it out across social media. That does frustrate me, and I think it's quite, in some ways, quite naive in that they should be aware that their audience have probably seen the other piece of content, because they're probably the similar audience if they're absorbing the same piece of content. So that's going to cause some negativity, and I see it all the time when people do this. They get some negative comments on social media saying, this is not yours, why are you doing this is rubbish. So I think it's a bit of a cheap act to do, to literally take someone's exact content and copy it out. It's lazy, and I think also it can perpetuate myths. There's one piece I know about that I've mentioned quite recently, which is frustrating me a lot on social media, which I won't specifically mention, but there is a specific post going around social media with a few people copying and pasting it and retweeting it, etc. And it's just wrong. The actual post itself is completely strategically wrong, and yet it's being posted out to tens of thousands of views, which is very frustrating. Taking something that is you see getting good engagement and just reposting it out because you think it will get good engagement for you, means lots of people see something that's wrong, and that's very frustrating. So I think creating something original, but by putting your own brand voice, your own angle, you're taking an existing story and twisting it to be relevant to you and your audience, is a much more powerful methodology than literally just copying and pasting some words and sticking it out there. It might be easy, it might be simple to do that, but it's not really truly authentic, and it's not yours, and it's not going to benefit you in many ways. So I'd recommend against the copy and paste, but there's no harm in being inspired by what other people are saying, taking ideas from that and thinking about how you can twist that to suit your audience. But the best route is always try and come up with something original yourself. It's just pretty hard to do, right?
Yeah, there are times when I create original content and it gets no engagement, but when I do something generic or like what is trending, that gets a lot of likes and engagement, which can be very disappointing. And
but you can look at what's trending, right? And you should look at what's trending, and try and get a thought about why it's trending. Is it because of a story that's going on at the moment? Is it because there's a real passion or a real problem that a lot of people have that you can solve? And then work out what content you can create off the back of that that's relevant to you, that's then going to pick up. It's different in personal social media, where you're just pumping out a few gifs and having a bit of a laugh with your friends and your followers. But in professional social media, if you can look at what's trending, understand the data, and then create really good content around that, that's better than just saying, okay, this is trending, let me copy it and stick it out there, right? That's kind of my position on it.
Yes. And I think social media platforms in general should have stricter plagiarism laws or something like that, rules that people should abide by, because it can be very frustrating when people blatantly copy your work. And so in a world like which has made copying other person's work so much more easier, there is no track record of who made what. Do you think originality exists then? Or it's just a myth?
It definitely does exist. I mean, obviously, as you know, as an author myself, plagiarism does irritate me. I know there are people that take some of my work and put it off as their own. Thankfully, not too much, but it does happen. But I think originality does. I have to say originality exists because obviously I write my own content, right? So it definitely does exist. And I think, as you say, it's originality now is a small portion, a much smaller portion of content than it used to be. So, where it used to be, the majority of content produced was original. Now, as you say, it's so easy to take up someone else's content. So, originality absolutely does exist, and you see new content, new advertising, new blogs, new social posts from brands big and small, and individuals with many followers or tiny followings all the time, that are really nice, really creative, really interesting, really exciting. And a lot of the people that do copy will copy these guys that are coming up with original stuff. There's loads of there's loads of examples from the last 10 years or so. Think about the ice bucket challenge and things like that. There's loads of like completely original new ideas that come out all the time. So Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying everyone's copying everyone. There have to be original ideas to copy, right? So it absolutely does exist. I guess my one takeaway from this is that I would like everyone within marketing to be looking at what their message is and creating original content around their message. People that find themselves leading the pack are the ones that create the direction, right? The ones that say, this is where we're going, this is what we're going to create. If you want to copy me, you can follow me and do that if that's what you want to do. But I'm leading, and this is where we're going, and that's how you take a brand forward. If you copy other people, you're generally only going to be one step behind them. So from a content perspective, you should be looking for fresh new ideas and twists on a theme, rather than the copy model. So yeah, there's some fantastic original ideas out there all the time, but I would encourage every marketer to be looking for those original ideas, not taking the easy way out.
Yeah. So do you think content is overrated, with people like just rating it and it's just become reduced to a buzzword? Before, like, you could have thought of it as art, now it has just become a buzzword that everybody has to do. And as a creative person myself, right now I feel like there's no purpose with content. Everybody's creating something, and everybody's Instagram used to be about being artistic. Now it's just promotional stuff going on there all the time. So what is content now?
Yeah, it's a really good point. I mean, it's always the danger with these things that something becomes a buzzword. It's like innovation, right? Everyone loves to talk about innovation, but they're not necessarily innovating. They're just making sure they talk about innovation, right? And so it's a similar sort of thing, right? Everyone that knows the power of content, especially in social media, which of course is an area that itself is quite thin as a platform. It's easy to start a social media account, copy someone else's content that's popular, shove it on there, and get loads of followers. That's easy to do if it's what you want to do, but it's not authentic, it's not genuine. So there is a situation like this where people know they need content for SEO, they know they need it for social media, so they're just doing it, just going through the motions of, okay, copy that, put that there, okay, here's a format that I've heard works, so I'll stick that out. Oh, I need to do a reel where I jump and turn around and my clothes change. Okay, I'll make sure I do that. And it's like a tick list of things you feel like you have to do on social media and on your website, etc. So there is a real concern in my mind around content becoming a buzzword like that. And I think the best way to combat that as a marketer is to always put your audience first, right? That's really what it comes down to. Who are you writing for, and what's the value you're providing to them? So if you're thinking about yourself and how do I grow followers and how do I get my engagement up and how do I improve my SEO rankings, etc., then you're going to produce content along the lines of what's trending and what should I do to what looks like it's going to get the most engagement. But yeah, I would suggest, whilst that's one angle to look at, it's more important to step back and just look at your audience, talk to them, find out what they want, right? Your surveys, analytics, data, these are all really useful ways of finding out what people want, see what people are reacting to, but don't just follow the trends, right? Because then all you do is you get caught up in the mix of everyone else who's following the trends, which is huge numbers. So try and stick to who you are, what your USPs are, what your audience really want, and truly drive really good content that way, and you will gradually stand out. If you just follow the trends and the buzz, then you'll just be one person in the crowd. You're never going to stand out. So yeah, it is becoming a buzzword, but we can change that.
Yeah, I hope it becomes more meaningful as time goes by, which is like does not have a great probability, but yeah, people are just turning around, changing their clothes and calling that content. And with that, the content is getting shorter and shorter. Like, people want 5-second long clips. And what do you think? Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Should we follow
I don't
them?
think it's a good or a bad thing. I think it's both, to be honest with you, as with most things. I know I'm sitting on the fence, but I think for me, there's a lot of benefit in short form content. I think people have short attention spans nowadays, and they're quite time poor. I think people just often want to get on with things. It's the behavior we've been taught over the last 20 years, and certainly the younger generations have been entirely brought up that way. That if someone's going to reach you, they need to reach you in 5 seconds, and if they don't, you'll go somewhere else to someone who will reach you in 5 seconds, because you don't want to waste time with something. So that's a common trait now, and something that everyone needs to be aware of and reacting to. So when you are looking at producing your content, sure, some of it will need to be long form. If you're writing white papers or discussing a complicated topic or something like that, then it will need to be in a long form in some way. But there's no reason you can't take the sort of 5 salient points from that and cover it in 30 seconds, right? So the short form content has a lot of value in getting people quick information, and keeping people engaged with you, rather than waffling on. So I think there's a huge amount of value in long form content, but short form content has its place. Obviously there are more and more platforms moving into short form content all the time, and it's going to be a competitive space over the coming years. But I think there's definite value in it. But I would say don't assume that everything needs to be short form content. I know the algorithms are pushing towards it, the platforms are pushing towards it, but there's a huge amount of value in long form content as well, both on YouTube and in written format, on your website and various other platforms. So yeah, for me, content is short form content is really valuable and should be part of your mix, but not the only part of your mix.
Yeah. And I think all the apps like Instagram Reels, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, the algorithm is supporting Reels with short form content, where it can be disheartening to work on such long vlogs or something like that and not get the engagement and the validation of creating something. So in the race of all these apps and different kind of algorithms, who do you think will win ultimately?
Who's going to win between the platforms? It's an interesting one, right? I mean, if you were to go back years and say who would win between Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, that would have been a hard call, because they're all offering slightly different solutions to different audiences, right? Whereas with TikTok, with Reels, and with YouTube Shorts, they're all offering a pretty similar thing, really, in reality, right? Where Instagram was image-based, Facebook was more sort of experience-based, and Twitter was very short form, micro-blogging. They were very different solutions. Now you've got 3 platforms here that are trying to do a very similar thing, very quick, short videos that they push out in front of people with a few sort of opportunities to animate and edit, right? It's a similar sort of format. So my gut feel is that they are all going to still be around and doing their thing in 5 to 10 years time. There might be some level of acquisition or something, but they're all in fairly major companies already. So Instagram being within Meta, of course, and YouTube being within Google. It seems I think it's very unlikely that either of those are going to buy TikTok, in my opinion, and we'll see how that plays out, but I think it's very unlikely. So but I my gut feeling is they're all going to be there, and what's going to happen is they're going to diversify a little bit in their offering and start to feel a little bit different to each other. Google has the opportunity with Shorts to distribute them into lots of places that the other guys don't have, and of course YouTube remains the biggest out of all 3. So it's got real scale there, and how it integrates those shorts and how people maybe start to use those shorts within their websites. There's opportunity for Google to manipulate that and play with that a little bit more than there is for the other 2. But Reels, of course, as long as Facebook and Instagram start to continue to stay powerful with that, I guess what is becoming a middle-aged generation, although I'm sure Instagram users won't like me saying that, generally sort of 30 plus generation is great. And TikTok is I don't know, I think it could become, because there's so many people going to TikTok for things like fitness and recipes, obviously Instagram as well, and YouTube Shorts, but TikTok certainly has a certain feel to it that's different to the others, and an appeal to the younger generations that, again, the others don't have quite so much. So I think it's interesting. I know I'm going all over the place with this one because I'm still formulating it in my head, but I don't. My gut feel is the three of them are going to have slightly different propositions over time, rather than necessarily one of them beating the others. But it's going to be an interesting one to watch. For now, make sure you're playing on all three would be my advice.
Yeah, it is very interesting to see like how audience reacts to a piece of content. Like there are a lot of YouTubers and TikTokers who just repurpose their content from one platform to the other, and all on all the three platforms there are different kinds of comments, and which is very interesting because the kind of demographic they have. So it's a very interesting thing. And also at the same time, all apps have the same content creators just going around in a loop, and so it can be difficult to stand out. So what do you think, how can people like who are just starting out stand out in this kind of
Well, look,
pool of
there's
content?
a few things you can do with short content. I think the key thing is to remember that with shorts, people are flicking through them very quickly, and they do expect something in the first couple of seconds. I think that's really critical, right? With long form content, you can take 30 seconds to get to the point. I wouldn't necessarily advise it, but you can take 30 seconds to get to the point if you're telling someone something really valuable over a longer period of time. With short form content, you need to get to it in 2 seconds. So you've got to get a strong headline. You've got to have something impactful, meaningful, exciting. So, pull in that headline, make sure you make a point right at the start of the video. If you can have some kind of interesting animation or editing element that happens in the first couple of seconds as well, just to grab attention and make you think, what's that? That's good. I'm not suggesting you go as far as a sort of clickbait approach, but you certainly want something that in the first couple of seconds is impactful and makes you want to obviously continue to watch the next few seconds as well. So my advice is think about something that's going to stand out, not just talking to the camera. You try and make something a bit more exciting, and get a very, very clear headline so people understand exactly what benefit they're going to get and why they should watch it, and get that out straight away. Don't do a big 5-second, here's my logo and look at this lovely animation and here's our brand music before you get into it, because 3-4 seconds into that, a lot of people are already going to be like, okay, come on, next, not interested. Right. So yeah, get straight to the point is the key thing. So yeah, I think there's those two things. One, get straight to the point with a headline, very clear benefit to your audience. And number two, come up with some creative editing method or creative idea in your filming to create some standout and some impact. If you can do those two things in the first 2 seconds, that's your best chance of success with shorts generally.
Yeah, quicker the better. More information in like 10 seconds the better kind of approach, which is kind of disheartening, but it is what it is. um yeah, so thank you so much, Simon, for speaking with me. Subscribe us on YouTube for more marketing tips and advice, and follow our podcast on Spotify and Apple. See you all next time. Bye.
Bye.